Welcome back to Mr. Opera. My name is Philippe and I am your host. Today I'm going to be getting you started learning the track system. I think this is going to be a lot easier if you get started learning it first, because a lot of this is intuitive and then some other parts of this are rather counterintuitive. So I'm going to start by getting you to learn about overtones. When you sing a note, there's actually more than one note going on, more than one pitch. And some really cool singers, like Anna Maria von Hefele, for instance,
Hello, I am Anna Maria and I'm an overtone singer.
are able to use overtones actually to sing two notes at the same time, and they can make nice melodies and harmonies without having anyone else present and without using an instrument. It's pretty cool. Some years ago, I started experimenting with what Anna Maria was doing, just in a very simple way. I just wanted to be able to do this trick of singing two notes at the same time. Eventually, I started to notice that overtone singing is very closely connected to how we hear vowels. So the first step is going to be finding what I call the S track. Now the S track is a way of making vowels that starts all the way in the back of the mouth and moves towards the front. And when I say it starts, I mean that's where the highest part of your tongue will be. When you make the vowel oo in S track, your tongue is going to be pulled way up here, far and back, and it's probably going to be, well, it's going to want to be flat, not bunched up. You'll hear some advice that says, don't sing in the back, don't use this, blah blah blah. Please just ignore that. We're going to try to have a little bit more sophistication here, and we're going to say that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So this will be a good choice sometimes, and it won't be a good choice other times. As I do more and more lessons in the track system, I'm hoping you'll see that there's some patterns that emerge about when you want to make a particular choice and when it's a bad idea. But when you're not sure, the thing to do is experiment. I'm going to start off just by singing for you a really simple overtone scale in S track. I'm going to start on pitch number 1, or tone number 1, and this will be indicated in the system I use as 1S. S stands for styloid, and styloid is this little teeny bone that sticks out right in front of your ear, and attached to that is a muscle that can pull your tongue back. Now, the reason I called it styloid is just when you want to use this track, think about starting from here. So I'm going to pull my tongue very far back into my mouth and all the way as high as it can go. This is really different from pulling my tongue towards here. Oh, it's much higher up and in the back. And what you're going to hear now isn't how I think you should sing opera, or anything really other than this overtone scale. But the reason for learning the overtone scale is that you get familiar with how pitches can be distributed on a track. And by pitches, remember, I mean not the one coming from here, but the second one that you're making with your tongue. And you'll see later on that actually we're not going to stop at 2 pitches. We're going to build vowels as if it's a chord made out of 3 notes. Just take your tongue and you're going to put it all the way up in the back, and you'll get a sound like this. You've got really nothing, right? As you start to separate your tongue a little bit from the back of your mouth, you'll start to hear 2 notes. One will be the one you're singing here, and the second will maybe sound like something like the vowel oo, but I want you to focus on the note that you hear. The note that you hear is going to be exactly 1 octave higher than the pitch that you sing from your larynx. And that's going to sound like, if I start from gu, ooh, ooh, ooh. If you can't hear the octave, it helps if I sing for you the rest of the scale. Ooh. Can you hear it a little bit better now? A little bit of motion helps us to start to hear. And in my way of thinking, when we want to make the vowel ooh, really what we're making is an octave. When I want to move to tone number 2, which is going to remind people of oh, so much that that's how I indicate it in the system when I want to sing oh, I start to move my tongue forward towards the front of my mouth, or rather, because we're in S track, I think of moving away from this point. Ooh, ooh. Now try 3 pitches. Ooh, ooh. My tongue is moving more and more forward. Ooh. Now, if you can just learn to sing that overtone scale, it's going to help things a lot here. When I start to open up my mouth, we get something more like vowels. But I don't want you to get concerned if these don't feel like the vowels you would necessarily want to sing. Because what we're trying to do here is learn where the track is. When you want to apply this to your singing, you're very rarely going to be staying in the same track for long. The mouth position that you see me using also has a number. So I'm using what's called +2. +2 is basically like being a ventriloquist. So if I was, talking to you like this, with my mouth almost closed, we could say this is +2. And I'm not a great ventriloquist, so you can see my lips moving and stuff, but this mouth position is about the same. Now, I could sing this S track scale using a different mouth position. So I could try +1, which looks like this. And then you'll get something like oh. What's important right now is just learning about this track. And so we don't want to move the mouth position too much. We want to get used to the idea that our tongue can actually do a lot. And you can see my tongue actually moving towards the front of my mouth as I do this. All I want you to do for this particular lesson is learn how to sing this overtone scale that I just showed you. Eventually, you're going to be able to team this up with another track that I call L track. And you don't need to be practicing this yet, but the basic idea is that if you started in S track and you went forward with your tongue, as it gets towards here, it's going to make the 5th tone. And as you start to drop it and keep moving forward, you're going to get again the 5th tone, but in a new track. And if you keep moving forward, you'll get to number 4, number 3, number 2, and number 1. And that's going to be like having an upside down version of the one in the back. Don't worry about that for now, but it's going to look something like ooh. Now I had to do some adjustments in order to be able to access that. If I kept my mouth exactly the same way, my tongue just runs out of room. So I made a little bit more room for my tongue to keep going forward. And as I kept going forward, I made the same series of overtones, but in the front of my mouth. This is going to start to explain why some people seem to be talking completely backwards from what other people are saying. Or you can have great singers completely disagreeing about whether something is placed in the front or placed in the back, and then some very unhelpful people pointing out that there's no such thing as placement. Yes, there kind of is a thing like placement, if you're thinking about it in this way, because these are physical locations that you have to access in order to get these overtones. And these are going to correspond to vowels. Okay, so thanks for watching. I know this is maybe the toughest thing to ask you to do an overtone scale without having seen exactly what the application is. However, if you want to work with this track system, you do absolutely need to learn these overtone scales. I think without it, you're going to be really guessing about things. And at the same time, learning this overtone scale is going to give you the necessary ear training for working with the track system. Because although you may be used to thinking of a vowel just on its own, and that's effective to some extent, it's not a definition of what you're doing. We want to be able to, in new school singing, switch completely from attitude to position and motion when we need to, and then be able to switch to attitude when we want to as well. A position is defined by what you can see or what you can hear. And in this case, by using overtones to figure out what the position is, we know the position of something we can't see. Next time, I'm going to be taking a look at the jaw and lip positions that you need to work with the track system. I know it's maybe a little bit difficult to start with the overtones, but I think it's really important because it's going to take you a little bit of time to get to where you can first off hear the overtones, and second to where you have the coordination to be able to sing a simple overtone scale. And you may have seen some other overtone singing that involves moving the mouth. That's good too. And if you can get your overtone scale that way, I encourage you to do that first if it's easier for you. But this version of things where you keep the mouth still and and also make an overtone scale, that's what we're going to need to be able to use the track system. Okay, so thanks for watching. I've started with this simple overtone scale because it's going to be really necessary to move forward with learning tracks S and track L. I wanted to give a shout out today to my friend Ivan Mihailovic. He's a fantastic complete vocal technique teacher from Croatia. I don't know if you've been watching the news, but an earthquake hit Croatia today at the worst possible time, right amid this pandemic outbreak. So please take a look at Ivan Mihailovic's channel, and I really highly recommend his online lessons, which I've taken a couple and were incredibly useful, and he's contributed actually a lot to this track system just by working with me on complete vocal technique. See you guys. Keep enjoying those quarantines, and please come and send in your overtone scales at the Vocalist Chat Hub if you want, or get in touch and link me some video of your overtone scales, and we can start taking a look at those. See ya.
Don't